Hi everyone, this is Lisa Marie. Welcome to the studio. Today I'm focusing on coloring this lovely skin tone with dark brown hues. Before I use any browns, I put down an underlayer of color. This will affect all the other colors I use. Today the underpainting or underlayer of color is a mix of blues and purples. I'll put these in the darkest shadows to start to create a sense of volume and depth. Give me a better sense of the lighting too. Being careful to not go too dark too fast. I'm being very gentle with the color here, not pressing down too hard. That's why my hand is further back on the pencil. If your hand is closer to the tip of the pencil, you naturally press down harder. I don't want to fill the tooth or the texture of the paper yet. I want to put a lot of layers of colors over this. I drew this image as a grayscale, which is a bunch of different shades from dark gray to light gray or white, which is the white of the paper here. It's great for coloring if you want a more realistic look when you add color. Coloring grayscale is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Start with one dark color, one medium color, and one light color. Put the dark color over the darkest gray, the medium color over the medium gray, and the lightest color over the, lightest gray or the white. And that's how you start coloring in grayscale. After that, you can expand your palette to include a lot more colors. This is especially fun when you're exploring all the possibilities with skin tones. By using blues and purples here as the underpainting, it's really going to make the brown hues a lot more rich in the shadows. I could have used reds for underpainting, but that would have totally changed the skin to be extremely warm looking. The blues and purples add a nice touch of cool coloring, which will nicely offset the warm browns and oranges colors that I'm going to use later. If you look at a color wheel, you can see that brown and orange are opposite blues on the color wheel. That makes them complementary colors, which means visually they'll push each other to be more striking when side by side. And when blended together, they'll be a lot darker and richer. And I want some dark, rich shadows in this skin tone. You can see how the color looks rough because I'm not pressing hard, so it's not filling in the tooth of the paper. The paper will get filled in with each layer of color. The next layer here is the dark brown, you can see, which I'll blend right over the blues. And you can see how those dark, rich shadows are starting to form already. Still being gentle, softly inching my colors closer to the lighter areas. All the colors I'm using are in the video description, so you can go check out the exact colors. These are all Prismacolor pencils. Also, the link to download this coloring page is in the video description as well, so you can download it and color along with me, which would be fantastic. I'm going for a very natural look, so I'll use some colors around the same colors around her eyes and in her lips. You can see I've already started to do that around her eyes and in her lips. Another fun approach would be to give her, bright red lips as if she's wearing lipstick and play with colors in her eyelids as if she's wearing makeup. But I love the natural beauty in her face and really wanted to create a palette that seemed a bit more genuine. Her features are so lovely. I didn't want to cover them here with lots of embellishments. One thing I do add is a bit of texture in her bottom lip. So with the facial skin, I make the color smooth, but there are natural creases in lips, especially the bottom lip. So I apply a few exaggerated lines vertically. That will help create that sense of texture. Once I start adding the orange, here you can see that, which is the medium tone, you can start to really get a sense of the warmth in this color palette and see how it interacts with the blues in the shadows. All these layers of colors are being applied gently with either small strokes of color or small circles, so you don't see lots of pencil lines. That will keep the skin looking smooth and help the colors blend together better. But there are exceptions. I already mentioned pencil lines in the lips for texture, but also around the eyes, corners of the lips, and the finger joints, all places where the skin naturally creases. You can see more obvious pencil lines in all of those areas. And you need some texture and imperfections. No one's skin is perfectly smooth. The middle tone, which is what I'm doing here now, it's a bridge. It connects the darkest shadows to the lightest areas of the face. I still let the white of the paper show for now, but the middle tone definitely helps build up that sense of volume that I mentioned earlier. And in this palette, the middle color is actually several colors. It's several shades of reds and oranges and browns that blend together on the paper. And as I add each layer to the tooth of the paper, it's getting filled in more. And the skin each time is gonna look a little bit smoother. I don't push the shadows all the way to every edge around the face or hands, but I'm leaving some strips of white. I'll color these in a little bit later, but by leaving these a bit lighter, it gives the sense of reflective lighting. That's when light reflects onto her skin from another surface. So imagine the light reflects off one finger and bounces up a little to the finger above it. Or the light bounces off her earrings or blanket or the wall to send a small amount of light to the edge of her face. When I start using my lighter colors, especially in the mid-tone, and especially in those really lighter hues, I'll press a bit harder with the pencil. This will really start to blend all the layers of color together and fill in the paper texture even more. You can see right there in the apple of her cheek, it's really starting to look a lot smoother. In her forehead, it's starting to look a lot smoother because of all these layers of color filling in the paper. And I like doing printable coloring pages so I can pick the paper myself. This is a heavy cardstock paper, which can take lots of layers of color, because I like to use lots of layers of color. I'll include the link to the paper in the video description if you want to use the same type of paper and experiment a bit. Here you can see that mid-tone, that nice lighter orange, filling in her hand. It's just getting so much smoother already, filling in the paper layer by layer. That yellow is going to add a whole new dimension to this coloring palette. I love that yellow. So far, I've used mostly shades of blues, browns, and reddish orange to build up the skin tone. But that light yellow is going another step to add a touch of warmth to offset the cool colors in the shadows. It's also pulling even closer to the lightest parts of the grayscale drawing. There are parts of this portrait I'll leave very light, and that's because I want the contrast of very light with very dark shadows. I'll even go back with my dark blues and push the contrast by making the shadows deeper, but first I have to finish playing with my yellow. There it is, pushing my shadows. This technique of layering colors is very cyclical. It's a cycle or circle of going back to repeat layers of colors over and over again. It's actually very calming, almost meditative, or at least I find it very relaxing. Probably helps that I choose the palette beforehand so I can just set up my pencils and start coloring and playing. Putting the blues that you see here I'm doing on top of the oranges and browns looks very lovely, I think. Now you can really see the cool blue in the shadows working as the complementary color to the oranges and browns. And brown actually is orange. It's just orange that's darker in tone. And I'll keep layering with the dark brown too, still going for those rich shadows. I rarely use black to create shadows or darkness. Black is a flat looking and actually it takes away the sense of volume and depth. And in a skin tone, it's just completely unnatural to my eye. There are so many colors in skin tones, and darker skin tones have such gorgeous shadows. I think it would just be a shame to not play with all the colors here. With these next layers of colors, I'm jumping around a bit to add more saturation to certain areas, around the eyes, the tip of the nose, cheeks, and fingers. These are parts of the anatomy that naturally look more saturated with pigment. And with each layer, I move a bit more into the white parts of the portrait. I'm going slowly to make sure I don't lose that healthy glow or shine in the skin. Adding more pigment as I jump around. There's the fingers, a little bit richer coloring. Around the eyes, more pigment. Tips of the nose. All these layers that you can just keep layering the colors because of being so light-handed at first, not pressing too hard. And you can see on the side, I'm just going pencil by pencil, slowly working my way back up. That line of pencil, that palette that I created beforehand. Building the rich tones, blending the colors right on the paper. But now that I'm in my later layers of color, I am pressing harder now with the pencil. You can see my hand is closer to the tip of the pencil. Remember, when your hand is further away, you naturally don't press as hard. When your hand is closer to the tip of the pencil, you naturally just press harder, which will fill in the tooth of the paper, blend the colors better, and fill in the tooth. Which I just said. I'm repeating myself. The yellow pushes even further into the white areas and blends the colors even more. You can really see that, again, in her cheek and the forehead, I think. But I still want the contrast of the shadows, so with the, super light areas. So I am going to leave some sections very, very light and let the white of the paper help me. I'm going to use it as a tool. So the white pencil is going to smooth the color transitions into the white of the paper. The problem with the white is that it can mute the color saturation a bit. All those layers of colors I've worked on so far, white can mute it down a little bit. So I'll go back with other colors and make sure the skin tone is still very rich after I'm done doing some blending with that white pencil. Re-adding a bit of color, and nothing is completely lost because the layers are so gentle and so carefully laid down. You can still see all the other colors. Then I pull out my indigo blue, which I love. It is so dark, and that's going to push some of the darkest parts of the darkest shadows. I'll add touches of color here and there around her eyes also. And a bit more color to her lips in just a moment. But that's actually it for today. And there you have it. One color palette for a lovely dark skin tone. There are so many more we can do in the later videos. Thank you for joining me in the studio. Remember to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my next video, and stay creative. Bye!